as you're like getting settled in the Tula space here, I'd love to know from you, have you ever worn a baby in a carrier like one of these before? And if so, or if not, but you're getting excited for it, what are you most excited about baby wearing? So let me know. Yeah, have you ever baby worn before, and what are you most excited about baby wearing? Hi, hello. Maybe it is just the coziness of being with your baby. Maybe it's being able to multitask, do chores around the house, or care for other children if you've already got other kids. Or maybe you're excited about the fashion, which might sound kind of weird. Like, how can a baby product be a fashion thing? Hi, lots of hellos and yeah, all the things. Never worn before. Wonderful. Welcome all to the new world of baby wearing. Oh, we are going to talk about how it's not going to hurt your back too much, and what we can do about all of that. Multitasking, flexibility. Oh, yes, these are wonderful. Snuggles and hands-free. All wonderful benefits of baby wearing. Great things to be looking forward to about baby wearing. But I was talking about fashion, which might sound kind of strange with a baby product being fashion, but that's actually one of my favorite things about Babytula specifically, is that they have so many different prints and fabrics that they use to do their carriers. To make their carriers in, and we're going to explore, specifically we want to explore, I forgot, it's on the other side today. We're going to explore a little bit of the linen line of carriers too. So first, just let me introduce you to these three carriers that I have behind you, and then we're going to put them on, and I'll show you how quick and convenient Tula carriers can be, how cozy, and it's cute. They're cozy and cute too, all the C's. So we're going to start with this one, and this one is the Tula Free to Grow. A little hood there for baby as they're sleeping. This is the linen line. If I can get it a little bit closer. There we go. You can kind of see the herringbone of the linen print there. This is the mango color of the Tula Free to Grow. I'm super excited about, I love the comments about linen because I'm super excited about their linen line. I'm a big fan of linen carriers because they're breathable. They get really, really soft. The more you wear them, they just get softer and softer and super floppy, and they really just conform to your body and all your curves, and it's fantastic. This one is the Explore. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference between the Free to Grow and the Explore in just a minute, but these buttons are a big part of it. And there you can see a little bit more of the, get closer, and you can see more of the linen print too with that herringbone. Oh yes, it's just, I love it so much. And then we'll talk about the hip pack in just a minute too. So let's get this one on. Let me take it off my plastic lady. And these are, I've got a bunch of plastic ladies up here to kind of demonstrate the carriers when I'm not wearing them. But dads out there, men who are out there in the audience, don't discount the fact that these are really great for you too. There's a lot of really great guy-centered prints. Like this one is called Discover. It's a really great like black. I have a friend who has this one in gray too that they use for their husband. So really wonderful. Before I put this on, a couple of things that I want to point out about features too. The Explore carrier starts at 7 pounds. So most newborns can just start right off with an Explore carrier or the Free to Grow. They both start at 7 pounds and they go up to 35 pounds. My husband loves it. Oh, I love that comment. What's awesome, what accommodates a tiny baby size, because you can see it's pretty wide here. So a newborn would really get swallowed the way it's set up right now. But in the waistband, there are these snaps. You can see those snaps there. I'll unsnap them. There's 3 snaps. There we go. So the snaps, once you unsnap them, then you take this fabric here and just squeeze it down and snap it back in place. And you do that on both sides. And it accommodates a much smaller baby. Yes, isn't the color wonderful? I love this mango color. I was so excited that they sent this one to me. My husband never uses it correctly. We'll have them watch this video and then they'll make sure that they use it correctly every time. So you can see that little panel, this is where baby's bottom sits. It got so much smaller. Let me flip it around to the front. It's more pretty that way. It got so much smaller to accommodate our little teeny tiny babies. that way. The baby that I'm going to use is just a little bit bigger though. So I'm going to snap this back out. But I think that's one of the great things about Babytula carriers is that it doesn't require any extra pieces in order to make this work for a tiny little baby. So when you go to put it on, you just want this padded waist belt to be against your body. So the carrier is going to flip forward like that. And I also like to put it on backward because if you'll notice here, there's this little extra bit of elastic. There we go, right here. So the buckle part here, you want to make sure, and I'm going to move my camera down just a little bit because I'm on my tippy toes. There's a phone here. You want to make sure that this buckle part, here we go, makes it through this safety elastic. There's that safety elastic right there. So that the buckle, if it comes unbuckled, it's not going anywhere. I've hit this against a wall before, and it just kind of slightly came unbuckled, but the safety elastic was in place. So the carrier itself, not going anywhere. So I'm going to swing this back around because this is how we'll put it on with a little baby. I'm also going to, really quick, there's this hood here. The hood detaches. It's got these snaps inside of the shoulder strap here. So it unsnaps and there's a little loop there on the Explorer that you can see. It looks slightly different on the Free to Go. I'll show that in a little bit. But I'm going to just snap and take the hood off because it's a lot easier to demonstrate what's going on without that hood in place there. Okay, so we put on the waist belt, just step one. I talk a lot, but we put on the waist belt. That's all we've done so far. I'm going to grab my plastic baby. Here, lots of plastic people joining me today between the plastic ladies. And this is Hamilton. He's my plastic demonstration baby. So when I pick up my baby to put them in the carrier, I'm really just holding them on my body where I would hold them on my body without a carrier in place, without even thinking about where putting on a carrier. And this can be really great too for our extra fussy babies. If we just kind of put them on our body and kind of pat them a little bit, do some swaying, that kind of thing, get them really just set on our body and used to this position here. Then once they've settled down a bit, then we can take this panel and just kind of bring it up over their back, nice and slow. And again, we can just kind of hang out here. Like the panel's on their back, they feel that little bit of pressure. We can just hang out a bit. Some babies are like, yeah, let's do the whole thing, get it over with. Some of them are like, hold on, let's take some baby steps into this whole process. So you know your baby and what they need from you, whether they're a quick put the carrier on or a very slow put the carrier on. But there are some tips. Just kind of hold them onto your body, give them some pats and some sways, kind of take it slowly. And then you can get these shoulder straps up here like so. So we're not quite done yet, but I just want to make sure that Hamilton is centered here in the carrier, that these bits of padding here, there's a little bit of extra knee padding here on the sides. I want to make sure that that's hitting right at his knee pit, that it's not so far over that his leg can't bend freely at the knee, because Hamilton really likes to be able. So it's a joke. He's plastic. He doesn't care about his knees. But your real babies, they care about their knees. So just make sure that they can bend their knees freely. Same thing in the other extreme, though. You don't want their whole leg out like that. If you have cinched down your carrier, so it's that smaller size that I did before with the buttons, I made it wide again because Hamilton's bigger. But if you made it smaller, and you notice that over time, more and more of your baby's leg is starting to hang out of the carrier, that's a great indication that you can make it a little bit more wide. Remember, there's 3 snaps, so there's 3 different settings. I've got it on the most wide setting, but you get it down to that tiny, tiny setting that I showed you before, and you don't need an infant insert for it. And if you're not familiar with what an infant insert is, don't even worry about it, because you don't need one with the Tula Explorer or the Tula Free to Grow that I'm wearing here right now. Nothing extra required for those little babies. Okay, we're still not done. We've only done 2 things. We put on our waist belt, we put our baby on, and we made this nice and smooth up here, but there's still this clip back here that we need to get clipped. And a lot of times people will wear this clip up like really high on their back up here so that it's easy to get to the clip. But when you wear it up really high, it actually makes these shoulder straps do this kind of thing. It can dig into your neck, and it can cause a lot of pressure on your upper back. So you want to wear it a little bit lower, and I'll show you where it ends up on me and what's comfortable for me. Everybody finds their own sweet spot of where they like it. If it's kind of high for you, totally no problem. But most people are like, how do I get this thing on my back clipped? So there's a couple of ways that I'm going to show you so that you can do it all by yourself, totally independently, and you don't need to ask for anybody's help, because that's a big thing for me. I hate asking for help. All right, so we're always going to keep a hand on baby until the carrier is snug, right? And the carrier is really taken on the responsibility of holding our baby. But in this case, we're going to take this shoulder strap in our hand, and we're going to pull it away, up and away, or sorry, up and toward, not away, up and toward ourselves. So kind of this direction, like this, not like this, but all the way back, close to our shoulders. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I took my hand off baby. So the point of this is that I've got the carrier holding the baby against my body. So they can't lean away from me because I'm holding these shoulder straps up and toward my body. And then I'm just going to move my fingers up, 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 up like this until I get to that buckle. Buckle it. Hold on here. So again, we're still holding that tension to keep our baby close to our body. Hold on to them and then drop that. And then I can adjust my shoulder straps. I like to kind of pull down from under here, clamp this with my, and then I kind of rotate my shoulders a bit, clamp this with my arm, and then take this and pull out any extra slack. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Kind of rotate it around my shoulder, clamp it, and then pull down here too. There we go. And that's all we need to do to get on the carrier. I can see here though that Hamilton's it's a little tall on his body, and he's also got a little bit of a shallow seat too going on. So I'm going to adjust that really quickly, because I find that even though these carriers are super duper easy to put on, the most common thing that people tend to do with them is keep baby one so close to their body, like so tight, that their baby doesn't have any room to move. And that's kind of hard. And then also they tend to, when that happens, when you have your baby like so tight against your body that they don't have any room to move, you often have what we call a shallow seat. And you can see that happening here. Hamilton's knees are lower than his bottom, and we actually want his knees to be lifted up a bit. And I'm going to move his hand kind of out of the way too. Real babies, they put their hands wherever they want them. They do a great job of figuring out where that should be. Hamilton has no idea what's going on, so I kind of help his hands out a little bit. So let's fix the height of our panel and also how shallow our seat is right now. So what I'm going to do is take one hand and reach inside the carrier, and you can kind of see, because this linen is so wonderfully thin yet so beautifully supportive, you can kind of see my hand here is like right on Hamilton's body. So I'll use my other hand. I was doing this, and now it's right on his bottom, on the bottom of his bottom. So I'm just going to kind of lift him up a little bit. And then I'll take this hand and put it right here on my waist belt. So now inside the carrier, see the lights a little bit. You can see a little bit more of the shadow when I do that. All right. So now I'll take my hand on his bottom and lift his body up a bit. See how he came out of the carrier? And then I'm just going to sit him a little bit further forward in that panel. So we are still together. We're still one unit. I can do a little like baby dance samba thing going on. And he's not sloshing around in the carrier. That's a really big thing. We don't want him to be sloshing around in there. We want him to be able to sit securely in it, even if I'm exercising or I'm doing a little house dance party or whatever it is. But we put him further forward in the panel. So now his knees are up higher than his bottom. Get him in there a little bit more. There we go. His knees are up higher than his bottom. And his bottom is really sitting into that carrier, which makes his pelvis tilt forward toward me and makes it a whole lot more comfortable for them to sit in the carrier. I mean, think about yourself if you were like, if you're sitting and your pelvis is kind of like out like that, it's not very comfortable. But when you tuck your pelvis forward like this and have a nice deep seat, it's a lot more comfortable when you're sitting. And the same thing for babies as well. A couple of questions. I love that you're dropping your questions in the chat because we didn't talk about that before, but you're used to it because you've seen a lot of live sessions. So it's wonderful. A couple of questions about back support. So a couple of things about that is, first off, when you have the carrier on, you want to make sure that this waist belt here is parallel to the floor. If it starts to do this kind of tipping forward kind of thing, that really pulls on your back. So the first way that you can get ahead of any back pain is to make sure that that waist belt is really parallel to the floor. Move his leg out of the way. There we go. Parallel to the floor, like that. The second thing that you can do to help with back too, as we already talked about a little bit, making sure that this clip here is in a comfortable spot for you. Not too high, because that'll give you a lot of upper back pain. Not too low, because sometimes that contributes to the carrier really like getting into your armpit kind of stuff. If those two things, if you troubleshoot those two things and you're still like, the lumbar though could use a little, Tula has an additional lumbar support that you can put on their carriers as well, which is really, really helpful. I think it helps a lot when we do live shows and we're up on our feet for like 8 hours talking to a whole bunch of people. We put on the carriers with the lumbar support at the end of the day, just for like back help, because our backs are sore at the end of the day. I can see Hamilton is still, there's a space. He's still a little low in this. Another one of the adjustments that you can use for babies that are still a little small in the Tula is, we talked about in the waist belt, how you can make this smaller so their little legs can get out, because this is a legs out carrier from birth. As soon as you start using it at 7 pounds, baby's legs can be out the sides. So this, again, knee padding is hitting right at the knee. But there's also this adjustment up at the panel. Usually Hamilton doesn't need too much of this adjustment, but today for some reason, maybe he shrank a little bit while he was in the closet sleeping for the last couple days. So what you do is, it's a little, just a little kind of slider thing with webbing. I'm gonna undo a little bit of it there. And you can see how as I'm manipulating it, this is cinching up right here. I'm gonna pull that through. There we go. I'll do the same thing on the other side. I kind of like am feeding it through here. See how it's cinching up there? And then pull it through. There we go. And then I'll just make sure that it is the same. It's consistent all the way across, so it has that nice fold to it. And there we go. Now we can see Hamilton's beautiful face, the beautiful face of my plastic doll. There we go. A couple more questions before I take it off, and I'll show you one more way that you can get the shoulder clip, the chest clip we call it, but it's on your back, so it's not really a chest clip. But anyway, yeah, legs out from birth. So newborns, they're same thing. They're fit in this exactly the same way. Their bottom goes in the middle, their legs come out, but because that we do that adjustment in the waistband, which I'll show you again when we get to the Explorer carrier, because it has the same exact adjustment if you missed it from before. They cinch down, so they're a good deal more narrow, and this panel can come down just a bit more too. So they just legs out from birth. Yep, they don't need to be all curled up. They're still in that curled up position, but the carrier supports them. It's funny with newborns because their feet and their legs are so teeny tiny that even when they're curled up in that kind of froggy position, it barely looks like their little feet are sticking out, but their feet are sticking out. The point is that their weight is sitting on their bottom. So if their feet are really curled up inside the carrier, it makes it harder for their weight to get onto their bottom. So that's the whole point of getting their feet out toward the side so we can really get their bottom to sit inside the carrier like this. A question about how do you get your waist belt parallel? I have a hard time keeping my waist belt parallel. Really great question. Same thing that I did before. So what I'm going to do here is just loosen this up a little bit so I can show you. And as I loosen this up, I also want to show you, because we usually always get questions about plus sizes. People who have different body sizes can fit in the carrier, because I know that I'm kind of a small person. There's a whole lot more webbing in this as well. So the waist belt can get to be a whole lot different sizes than it is right now. When I do live shows with people, I've never ever met a person that I hadn't been able to fit in a carrier, from teenagers well through adults. All different sizes of people have been able to fit in the Tula carriers. The shoulder straps also get significantly, they're all rolled up. You can see there's a little roll thing, a roll of webbing going on there. So it gets a whole lot longer. Okay, so back to the waist belt issue. I'm just gonna loosen this up a little bit. So what happens is usually, though not that much, usually the waist belt is really loose. So you get this kind of forward leaning action here. Do a little bit more exaggerated. Yeah, there we go. And you can also see what happens when that waist belt really moves forward is that we lost some of the deep seat. So the knees started to go down, and Hamilton is losing a lot of support here. So it's the same thing, the same move that I did before in order to give us a more deep seat. I took one hand, reached it in just to support my baby, really, while I'm adjusting. This hand goes on the waist belt, and I'm going to move that waist belt, move my shirt down, move that waist belt onto my body where I want it to be nice and snug. And then I'm going to come back here and take all that slack out of that webbing so it's really secure. What often contributes to a waist belt that is slumping down in front is that it's not super tight on your body. Super tight is a loose term. I say super way too much. It doesn't need to be so tight that you can't breathe, but it does need to be secure onto your body. So make sure that you've really pulled out all the slack in that webbing in your waist belt before putting the carrier on, so that you get ahead of that tilting issue, because it really does pull a lot on your lower back, and that's not what you want. Oh, so if baby's smaller, how you lower where the head is, there's still a little bit more space here where I can do this cinching down at the shoulder straps. Pull this one down too. So I can make this panel really tiny and low. We can make it even lower on Hamilton if we wanted to, or then I can take these out and make the panel high again. The panel isn't what you would want to use, like if your baby falls asleep and they've got the floppy head going on, you would want to make sure that you've got your hood attached again, like it's attached to the Explorer here. So the hood can come up, and it's got little snaps up here on the shoulder straps. Kind of hard to see because they're black snaps on black webbing, but that's where the little sleepy hood, we call it, where the sleepy hood attaches to. So your baby still gets good airflow, still allows them to, get oxygen and stuff, because we think about baby wearing safety in terms of ABCs. It's a fun acronym, so we remember all the things. And the A is airway. It's the most important thing that they make sure that they're getting fresh air, that you can monitor their airway the whole time that they're in the carrier. What's the price for this one for the Free to Grow? The linen line and all of the other Free to Grow carriers are $159. The Explorer is $179 because it has an extra feature. Let me show you that. But first, we're going to take this one off, and I'm going to show you that other way that you can get the clipped or unclipped if you're all by yourself. First, I show you I will do it again with the Explorer, so I'll recap it then. But now I'm going to loosen up the webbing at the shoulder straps where the shoulder strap meets the panel. And then I'm just going to take this clip, a little bit more loose. My glasses are starting to that's good enough. I'm just going to take this clip here and put it over my head like that. So you can put it on the same way. Clip it in front of you and put it on over your head like that. I think the mango color is more of an orange to me. It really is kind of an in-between. It's not as orange as like Tula logo orange, but I can show you the logo. Get it a little bit closer. And there you can see a little bit more of the contrast. I think their website does a great job of having the a pretty true to color representation as well. Undo my waist clip, which again, we put the clip through that safety elastic there. So I got to make sure that I get it back through the safety elastic again. All right, so next we'll move on and we'll talk about the Explore carrier. And what's different about the Explore carrier is that it faces out. Get my model address again. There we go. Do the t-shirt trick on her too. When you buckle the clip in front of you and then put it over your head, we call it the t-shirt trick. It's very fun, right? Make sure I unbuckle the buckle here. Okay, so we put on the carrier the same way. And remember, I'll just show you again in case you missed it before. Inside this waist belt here, it's upside down. There are these snaps. 3 snaps. Whoop, get that third one. There it is. I see a mirrored image from what you guys see, so I'm like all discombobulated about where things are right now. But we've got those 3 snaps. So then we take the carrier and we cinch down that fabric and we snap it again, and it makes we do that on both sides, but the interest of time, I'm just going to do it on one side. But you can see how much it goes from super wide to really significantly more narrow, so that, yeah, you can fit your tiny little newborn bottoms in there without having to get an extra infant insert. Okay, same way to put on the waistband. I like to put it on backward. So the whole carrier, bring it up like this. So the whole carrier facing out like this has the waistband against you, and we just flop it forward like that. And then I always like to put it on backward just to make sure that I get that safety elastic. So I get my buckle through that safety elastic and then buckled. But after a while, you really get used to it. Like that muscle memory starts to really kick in after a while, and you don't really have to think about what you're doing anymore. And you can start to put it on with the back in the back of you. After I swing it around, I always make sure that I get that webbing really secure in the back so it's nice and snug on the front of me. And everyone finds their own sweet spot for where they like the waist belt as well. Just make sure it's slightly above your hips. The soft structure carriers, all soft structure carriers, regardless of the brand, they're all designed based on hiking backpacks. If you've ever worn a hiking backpack before, you know it's got that waist belt to it that you bring around and that you buckle. Hiking backpacks are designed with that waist belt so that some of the weight comes off your shoulders and is distributed around more of your back and also into your hips. Because our hips are a strong part of our body, they're designed to bear some weight. And so hiking backpacks want to distribute that weight off our rather picky shoulders, to be honest, and down into our hips. And that's the same thing that soft structured carriers are doing as well. The big padded waist belt is so that a lot of the weight comes off our shoulders and gets distributed down to our hips. So it's a lot less pressure on our shoulders and on our back because everything is spread around our upper body a little bit more. Okay, let's get Hamilton and put him on. So again, we put our baby on our body. We move this up. We'll do the faster version of it. We get our shoulder straps up. This shoulder strap up. You can buckle. And putting on the carrier can literally be that fast. It can be a click the waist belt, get your baby on, click the chest belt, do a little quick adjustments, and you're in. And it's so quick and convenient the way that Tula has designed their carriers. There's not a lot of extra stuff, which is, I mean, a really great benefit in my mind. Even though they're fast to put on though, once I get everything secured, I kind of over tightened just a little bit too. I still kind of like stick my hand in and just make sure I can see that Hamilton's leg is just kind of sticking out extra on this side. On this side, he's not very centered in the carrier. So I take my hand in there and grab onto his body, just like I did before. My hand's like right about here. And I just kind of move him over just a little bit. There we go. Now we're a bit more centered. I bring him a little bit more forward into the panel. So he's really sitting in that here. Same thing that I did before. I'm just going to remove our hood real quickly. So because there's a lot of magic in the panel here in the Explore carrier. The difference between the Free to Go carrier that we wore before and the Explore carrier is that the Explore can face out. Both carriers can do the facing in function. Both carriers are 7 to 45 pounds, I believe 7 to 35. I can't remember exactly. I'm horrible with numbers. But they both start at 7 pounds and they go up until your baby can walk. And you're pretty much using it because you went on a walk around the neighborhood and you knew that your toddler was going to complain about a block into the walk. So you put the carrier on, and sure enough, they started complaining. So you put them in the carrier and you didn't have to listen to that noise for the rest of your walk around your beautiful neighborhood. So yeah. Both carriers cinch down so that they can accommodate 7-pound babies all the way up to 35 pounds. Both carriers allow for facing in. They allow for back carries as well, which maybe we'll have enough time to get to a back carry in just a bit. But the Explorer allows your baby to face out. Another difference with the Explorer, you'll notice it's got these extra buttons here. So instead of those sliders at my shoulder that make the panel shorter, it's these buttons. So I can unbutton this, and for a newborn, what's great is that you can actually take this inside the carrier. It takes up a little bit of extra space because babies don't take up a lot of space in the carrier. So it's nice to be able to get that padding in there. Newborn babies love a little bit of extra softness and coziness, so it provides that as well. And when they're older, like 4, 6 months, some babies it's a little bit more, you can take this pillow out and snap it down here. And then when they're bigger, you can bring it up like this. So bigger than Hamilton is. He's too small to have the panel resting up like this because it's really hard for me to be able to see him this way. But there are snaps inside. This is kind of hard to show them, but there's snaps inside the shoulder that are contained in a little pocket here. So they don't hit your baby's head. They don't get in their way at all. And then this is the little loop where the hood, the sleepy hood, snap. It has a little loop to it as well. There's a little loop. So it just slides through that loop in here and snaps. So you can take it off, take it on. When I take them off, I actually like to store them in this little pouch down here. I just roll them up and store them in there. But you might want to use the pouch for like your keys or your phone or a diaper or something like that. It's totally up to you how you use them, but it uses the adjustment of the panel. The point is the adjustment of the panel is done with this snapping pillow that kind of moves up and down rather than the sliders that we had on the Free to Grow. Also, these buttons in front, these are for the facing out function. So if your baby is tall enough like Hamilton, you can see, hey Hamilton, his chin is taller than the top of this panel here. So that's a really great indication that he's ready for facing out, because when we face him out, he'll be able to see, and the panel isn't irritating his chin. It's not like up here on him, so he can't really like use his mouth and stuff like that. All of that's really important. We're also going to pretend that Hamilton has really excellent head and neck control, so he can keep his own head up and support his own airway when he's in the facing out function. So when you're ready for facing out, all you got to do is take these buttons on the outside, undo them from this position, and take them down into this position. We're going to do that on both sides. Undo them from this position up here, take them down to this position out here. And I'm going to unclip my clip back here. Oh no, the Explorer has a ton of different color options. Go on babytula.com and just have a great time going through all of the different patterns. There's, I'll show you them, a couple of other options in just a minute as well. But right now, we're gonna take our baby out. And then I like to reach in here. I'm gonna make sure that I'm underneath this bit of webbing. I reach in here and grab that foot and just kind of guide it into the carrier like that. His arms can be in between these two shoulder strap points here. And then we'll get this back on. We'll reclip. Get resettled here. I'm clipping it the hard way in the interest of time. I already gave you a couple of hacks, but we'll do the t-shirt trick again in case you missed it. But there we go. Now we're in the facing out position. So you can see how we've lowered these buttons here so that Hamilton can get his legs kind of around in this area so they're not too much in a spread squat position. But basically, the way this carrier is designed is that he's sitting in the same position facing out that he was when he was facing in. He still has the opportunity to really get his bottom in this deep seat here. His knee, doesn't he look super happy with what's going on? He looks super happy. His knees are up higher than his bottom. So he's still in that ergonomic, like spread squat sort of position. From a baby's perspective, it's kind of like an adult would be sitting on the edge of a hammock. Think about yourself when you're in a hammock and you're laying back and you decide to get up. So you swing your legs over to the side of the hammock and your bottom is like super deep inside that hammock and your knees are up really high. Your pelvis is that tilted forward. You're not sitting like this with your pelvis back. Your pelvis is that tilted forward sort of position. And you can't just spring right out of the hammock. It takes some work in order to push your knees down, engage your core, propel yourself forward to get out of the carrier. We want it to be that difficult for babies to get out to. Plus, they can't propel themselves into you when they're facing your body. Of course, with the panel in place, they can't push their knees all the way down and that kind of stuff. But in an ergonomic sort of position, that's where we want them to be. Is the Explorer warmer than the Free to Go? There is a little bit more padding, and there's the buttons here, so there's a tiny bit more here at the sides, but the panel in the middle is exactly the same amount of fabric. And with the linen line especially, linen is a really natural, breathable fabric. Linen is my favorite in the summertime because it's so thin and breathable, but it's so strong too. It's just a really great, versatile fabric for all those kinds of things. Plus, it's still super washable. All of our carriers are washable. You can just stick them in the washer. I like to lay mine flat to dry because I don't like the buckles tumbling around in the dryer. Those plastic buckles just kind of make me nervous. I don't want them to break. But I lay them flat to dry, but I absolutely wash them in the dryer or wash them in the wash machine all the time because with babies, as we know, they are not the most clean individuals and they like to chew on the fabric. They like to chew on the sides of the fabric. They spit up. Other things happen in the carrier. So yes, absolutely machine washable for sure. Okay, so now that we're in it, we're in the forward facing position, let's get this carrier off. We could do the same thing that we did before. Loosen up our shoulder straps. Loosen up there. Take that buckle right over our head like we did. And you can do the same thing to put it on. Just leave it buckled. Put it on over your head. Whole lot easier than asking a stranger in the parking lot at the grocery store for help or something. I hate asking for help, like I said before. Just not a big fan. So I don't like to do that. The Explorer, here we go. The Explorer is the one that faces out. It retails for $179. The Free to Go is the $159 option. Okay, so then you might be wondering what I have a hip pouch here for, because Tula makes baby carriers. They also actually do make hip pouches that are just hip pouches. There's a whole bunch of really cool different fabrics and prints and whatnot. I said I was going to show you before too. This is actually the carrier that, this is not this exact carrier, but this print and this coast style is what Tula is giving away. They have a bundle, and one of them is the Explorer Coast Beyond. Beyond is what this print is called. And you can see there's a mesh panel right here in the middle, and the hood is mesh as well. And that can help keep you and your baby super cool as well. I think the linen does just as great a job, but the coast is another great option. Okay, so it just looks like a hip pouch. It looks like, you know, you're back in the 80s or whatever. Hip pouches are totally making a comeback though. And you can wear it just like a hip pouch. It has the safety elastic in it as well. So make sure that you've got your safety elastic engaged. But this one is more than just a hip pouch. it's actually a baby carrier too. So like I said, if you've got that child who can walk now and you want to go for a walk with them, but you know that a block into the walk or a mile into the hike or whatever, they're going to start complaining, I don't want to walk. You've heard it if you have children of that age. So I don't need to demonstrate it for you. But you don't really want to hear that when you're on your hike in your beautiful woods or walking around your neighborhood. You just want to have a good time with your child and get a little bit of exercise. So this one is great because you don't have to have a whole carrier just like dangling down, waiting to put a baby in it. You can conceal it in this pouch. So when you open up this zipper here, surprise, there's a whole carrier that rolls out of here. Eventually, I'm not being very graceful about it right now. Oh, that's right, because I opened the wrong zipper. Duh. There's two zippers. This zipper on the front, I'm awake today. This zipper on the front actually is just a pouch, and you can put something in it. You can put a whole lot more things. I think this is a bit more of a roomy pouch than the actual carriers are, but there's a zipper back here. No wonder I couldn't get it out. There's a zipper back here that has a whole carrier that comes out of it. There we go. This one starts at 15 pounds. That's important to note. And it doesn't have an infant insert. So you're going to need to wait on this one just a little bit longer than you do with these other carriers. But otherwise, the functionality is really a whole lot the same. It's still got a sleepy hood, and the sleepy hood still has the little snaps on it. So you can take the sleepy hood off. If you want to, put it back on. If you want to, roll it up and store it in the more roomy pouch here too, if you want to. But same way to put it on. Hello, Hamilton. We're going to put our baby on our body, smooth up that panel, shoulder straps on, engage our clip. Always got to get my hair out of the way. Do a little adjustment to tighten up here. But that's it. We're good to go. Here, I'm going to do the same thing I did before with Hamilton because he doesn't seem to want to sit deeply. There we go. Doesn't want to sit deeply in my seat today. And my waist belt is actually a little loose too. I'm noticing I got a little bit of that tipping going on. So I'm going to tighten it up a bit here. But there we go. Nice and snug and quick. It's really just a buckle here, a buckle there, a quick little adjustment, and you're good to go. It's literally the easiest carrier I've ever put on. The light, we call this the Tula light because it's super duper light. It's made of this kind of like ripstop sort of fabric. It's kind of like gym short fabric, but not quite. It's more like a ripstop kind of fabric. It doesn't come in linen, the light, but it doesn't really need to because this fabric is so light and breathable. Plus you get all of the really cool prints, all of the really cool, like, I believe it's like a French twill fabric. I'm just noticing that's off and it was bothering me. So stuff like I showed you the Discover. This is it's like a gray star on a black background. In the giveaway bundle, you get that Coast in Beyond, and you get a Tula light in the Discover print, and you also get a Tula blanket in a really cute alphabet print. And this is another one of my favorite prints. It's got these triangles, these gray triangles on it. This is another, here we go, Explore. My brain's really not working this afternoon. This is another one of the Explore carriers, and you can tell because it has the buttons. So lots and lots of different prints out there. Tula also does a really great job of working with woven wrap manufacturers, and they will take woven wraps and make their carriers out of them. So there's literally like no end to the different prints and looks of Tula carriers because they use so many different things. Again, like I said before, I really encourage you to get on babytula.com and look at all of the different things that are out there because, oh man, there's just a whole lot of, I'm over there right now. I'm looking at a couple of things. There's just a whole lot of prints available over there. Okay, I said that we do a back carry. So let's do a back carry in a couple of different ways as well. Oh, But I also mentioned that there's like ABCs of baby wearing safety. So before we do a back carry, I only talked about the A of baby wearing safety ABCs. Let's talk about what the B and the C mean as well, because we touched on them, but I didn't actually define them. Once you put the carrier on, this is a great checklist to just go through and make sure that everything is set in a good way. So the A is airway, right? Baby's chin is, I keep turning the wrong way for Hamilton's face. Baby's chin is up off their chest. They're not in that curl, really like extreme curled over slumping position. We want them more upright, right? So that their chin stays up off their chest. We can easily monitor their airway. They can get fresh air. We're always awake and alert when we have the carrier on because we can't monitor their airway when we're not awake and alert. We need to be able to see it, feel it, hear it, whatever senses that you can use to monitor that airway. We got to make sure that those are engaged and their baby's face isn't covered up and they can get fresh airflow. So the A is for airway. The B is for baby's position, and their position actually supports their open airway. So I already talked a ton about keeping their knees up higher than their bottom. Get these straps out of the way. Their knees up higher than their bottom. These straps too have the little, I haven't taken them all the way down, but you can kind of see how you can roll them up and secure them like that so they're not really getting in your way. Baby's knees are up higher than their bottom, so their bottom can really sit into the seat part of this carrier. A nice and low bottom is what we're looking for, because that's when their pelvis tilts toward you and their back is in this really nice and supported position, so it keeps their chin up off of their chest. So your baby's position is the B part of the ABCs, and a really important way to support their open airway. But then the C, even though A, the airway, is like the most important thing, the C is also really important too, because it's for your comfort. The C is for comfort. Your comfort as the person wearing the baby. If you're not comfortable in the carrier, you're probably not going to come back and use it again and again and again. And that means that you're not getting all the great benefits of baby wearing, not just the multitasking stuff like we talked about at the top of the hour, but also being able to respond to your baby's cues so much faster. And when we can respond to our baby's cues faster, it makes us feel a lot more confident that we know what we're doing as a parent. Baby wearing helped a ton with my confidence. Every time I have 3, and every time I had a baby wearing really helped me get to know the cues that my baby was using to tell me that they're hungry or they need their diaper changed or whatever. So here we go. ABCs of baby wearing safety. Their airway is open. It's supported by their position, the baby's position in the carrier, and your comfort is also really important. If you're not comfortable, if you tried a few of the troubleshooting things that I told you about keeping the waistband parallel, about keeping this clip that's back here, about keeping that in a good middle position, it really should look kind of like a capital H on your back. When it's too high, it starts to almost look like an A on your back. It should look more like a capital H on your back. If you're doing all those things and you're still not comfortable in the carrier, reach out. You can always contact Babytula. They have trained and certified baby wearing educators that work for them, and they are happy to help make sure that you are comfortable, that your baby's happy in the carrier, that everyone is doing all the right things. Because carriers can actually cut down on how much our baby cries too. There was a study that was done that showed that babies cry 43% less in carriers. I don't know how exactly they came up with that exact number, 43%. But nobody wants to hear their baby cry. Nobody wants to know that babies' cortisol levels are rising up, that their stress levels are rising up in their body. When they cry less, their stress levels are down, and their body literally spends more time growing and getting smarter, because it's not stuck in that kind of like fight or flight, high cortisol, crying sort of period. So lots of benefits, lots of safety things to do with baby wearing. But also, let's do a back carry. Also, yes, because I saw a couple of comments in there about back carries, and then I want to make sure that I go through the list and get to make sure that we got to all of your questions. If for some reason though I didn't get your, sometimes I miss questions, and sometimes you think of a question once we're done with here and it's too late to ask me. Don't worry, because there's someone that is in that will be in the Tula booth. I can't remember the exact hours that, oh, actually, I think I have the email up here, so I can tell you the exact hours that someone will be in the booth. Today, the 14th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, Erin will be in the booth. She's a great one to ask your questions of, so I highly recommend hanging out with Erin today at 6, so just like 3 hours from now. Pop on over to the Tula booth and she can help answer any questions that I didn't get to or anything that you think about in the next 3 hours. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this back carry is first, I'm just going to loosen up my waist belt. Oh, it's over here. I'm just going to loosen up my waist belt just a little bit, not too much. And when I adjust that waist belt here, notice I've got a hand on Hamilton. So I'm not losing any tension here or support for Hamilton. I'm also going to loosen up my shoulder straps just a little bit. Maybe. There we go. Just loosen those up a little bit too. Notice I haven't taken the carrier off, and I'm not going to. I'm going to take this arm and just kind of lower one shoulder strap. And then I'm going to move Hamilton this way. So my open shoulder is the direction in which Hamilton is going to move. While I do that, I'm going to grab my waist belt. I find it a little bit easier to grab my waist belt and just kind of move him. Oh, wait, no, it's the other way. Sorry. I haven't done it in a little while. I'm going to move toward my not open shoulder. Clearly, it's time for me to take a nap and get back to this baseline set for myself. Okay, I'm going to grab onto my waist belt, though, and I'm going to move this whole carrier this way. Am I doing this correctly? It's been a while. Nope, I was right before. I'm going to move it this way. Yes. Okay. Here we go. I take one down. Oh, yeah. That's what I did wrong. I'm making it look like it's so not easy, but it's actually really easy. I just haven't done it in a couple of months. So one arm needs to go down out of here, and one arm needs to go out. And then, yes, I move toward my open shoulder. There we go. I'm totally with it. And I'm going to put this arm back in and this arm back in. And there we are. Yes, and it's hard to do things mirrored. Yes, exactly. So there we are in a back carry. Let's do it one more time so we can do it a tad more gracefully. One arm goes above the shoulder strap. One arm goes below the shoulder strap. I'm going to move in the direction of my open shoulder again to get him back up. Go back in here. Okay. So one arm over the shoulder strap, one arm under. There we go. Under our shoulder strap, open shoulder, go this way. And then back in over here. Make sure you hold on to this one. Make sure you want to maintain that tension. Back in over here. And then we're going to tighten it up. One side, tighten up that other side, and then we're back in our back carry. We need to tighten it up a little bit more, but there we go. Well done. We did it, Hamilton. We got into it. And now I'll reset and get us back. One under, one over, get us back in there again, and we're done. There's lots of different ways that you can get your baby into a back carry. This is just one of them. I can think of at least 4 ways that you can get your baby into a back carry in a soft structure carrier. You could start with them in the carrier. You could start with them not in the carrier. You could start with the waist belt on your body and then put them on your back and then move the panel up over them. There's lots of different ways to do it. So if you're already a skilled back carrier and you know how to do it already, stick with whatever you're doing because you're doing a great job at it already. But that's a way when my baby has fallen asleep. I mean, my youngest is 6 now, so obviously we haven't done a back carry with a real baby in a little while. But if they've fallen asleep or something and you can't take them out of the carrier or you don't want to take them out, you want to be sure that the carrier is still supporting them in some way. It's called the Walk Like an Egyptian, which I should have thought of because one arm goes up and one arm goes down. Anyway, and that gets you a back carry. Make sure for back carries that your baby is sitting unassisted before you start working on your back carries, because with them being on your back, if they start to maneuver one way or the other and they don't have the torso control to get themselves back up into a seated, straight up position, it's really hard for you to be like, get back up to where you're supposed to be. So if they have that torso control to be able to move their own torso back into that regular position, that's the milestone that you want to watch out for. Okay, I'm scrolling through, but I don't see any extra questions that I didn't get to, I don't think. I'm out of time as well. I've reached 55 minutes past the hour, and we got to move on to your next presenter. I appreciate you being here and all the fan questions that you have asked. It's really great. And like I said, Erin will be in the Tula booth at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So you can go over there and ask some more questions of her as well. It's lovely to have been with you. Thanks so much for being in our session, and enjoy the rest of the Prego Expo. Thank you. Thank you guys for your great comments. This is really great. Thank you. Thank you.